This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So we'll call the meeting to order and land acknowledgement. As we gather, we recognize and acknowledge the traditional keepers of this land with whom we share today. The township of Southgate is part of the traditional territories of the Anishinaabeg, Six Nations of the Grand River, Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, Haudenosaunee, and Saugeen Métis. The land that surrounds us is part of who we are, as it reflects our histories. May we live in peace and friendship with all its diverse people. Lindsay, anything for open forum?
No, Mayor Woodbury, no one signed up for tonight.
Okay. And the agenda, is it as amended or just straightforward this time?
Just straightforward this time.
That's twice in a row. We got to stop that. Okay. Moved by Barbara and seconded by Jim that we confirm the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none. Anyone opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Any declaration of pecuniary interest, declare now or at any time. And Lindsay's really happy to get the paperwork too. Yes, go ahead, Brian.
I will have an interest in report number CEO 2022-012 and also in bylaw number 2022-031 as the developer is a family member.
Okay.
And I think the clerk has the paperwork.
Wow. That's official.
Yeah, we're on it here.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. And if anyone else has any, you can declare that at any time as well. Okay, so we have a delegation, and we do have a motion moved by Brian and seconded by Michael that we receive this for information. And this is for Southgate Renewables Lp. And Mark, I'll turn it over to you and welcome.
Mayor Woodbury and members of Southgate Council, thank you very much for allowing us to delegate tonight. I am here with Jason Moretto, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Envest Corporation. Envest Corporation is the company that has acquired the Southgate Anaerobic Digester project and will be the owner and developer of the project. I think you know that history and the fact that the land acquisition occurred last October, and we're proceeding into development of the project. We have a slide deck which we've given to you, which is in the agenda package. And I would like to allow Jason to walk through the first part of the slide deck and introduce Envest and our activities. And then I'll take over from Jason and talk about the opportunity we have to slightly expand the land footprint we have in the Eco Park. Now, I see you've given me the sharing capacity here. Jason, shall I share and flip through the slides and you can tell me when to page turn? Sure. Maybe that's the best way.
Yeah, we can do that, Mark, no problem.
Let me try and get it up on my screen.
Otherwise, if I had permission to put the presentation up, I can do it as well. I have the presentation here. If someone can give me access to the screen, I can put it up.
We can see the screen.
Mm-hmm. Lindsay, or
I'll need permission to be a presenter to do that.
Yeah, we're just working on that now. Okay, I think you are the
Thank you.
presenter now, so thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much. So now, there it is. Sorry, what do you see in the, do you see the document on the screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. Okay, there you go. Okay, thanks everyone for allowing us to present here. There's quite a few slides, so we'll go through this very quickly. They're mostly introductory slides. We thought I'd take the opportunity, since this is an introduction to NVEST, to explain who we are. We know the schedule's tight, so we want to be respectful of your time. So we'll go through these introductory slides very quickly. And so we wanted to start with an overview of NVEST. Number 2, some of our bioenergy references, and then number 3, the matter at hand, which we'll turn back to Mark to discuss. So, overview of our company: we are an independent energy producer, and we provide private utility energy solutions, including power and thermal. We are experts in bioenergy and distributed energy. We approach projects with a design, build, own, operate, finance model. So we design and build projects with external equipment and OEMs, as well as engineering, procurement, and constructors, but we own and operate our own facilities and finance, as well as equity owners. Again, our focus is distributed energy and bioenergy. This particular project at Southgate falls under our bioenergy umbrella. So just to give a recap of the history at Southgate, so we entered into an arrangement with Petawawa Renewables, a project that Mark was the developer of, and we entered into that transaction in August 2021. We rebranded the project as Southgate Renewables Limited Partnership, and our first step was assembling the agreements required for this development, and that included the land acquisition with Southgate, which we executed on October 26, 2021, as well as an Enbridge interconnection agreement, also in October. So our next step is to finalize the footprint of the facility on the lands that we are requesting this evening, and make certain engineering modifications to optimize the plant design, and stay within the confines of the environmental permit that we have with the Ministry of Environment, that has been approved by the Ministry of Environment. So we have to make a slight amendment to that, but the inputs and the outputs to the facility would remain the same. So just modifying the design to optimize, applying our experience to the redesign on that. And so in terms of experience in bioenergy, I want to first introduce to yourselves. You may be aware that the first privately owned commercial anaerobic digester in Ontario, actually in Canada, is a Seacliff Energy project in Leamington, Ontario, and that's our project. So we're have over a decade of legacy expertise in processing municipal and organic commercial waste through anaerobic digester processes. And this facility is 110,000 tons per year versus the Southgate facility that's at 73,000 tons a year. permitted capacity. Our Seacliff facility has been recognized by federal, provincial, and municipal at the District Chamber of Commerce Awards back in 2020. So we're very proud of the work that we've done in the community. And you know, our focus is treating green bin waste, otherwise known as source separated organics. There are about 6 regional municipalities in Ontario that have source separated organic programs, and we have worked with 5 out of the 6. Including the largest, which is the City of Toronto. We renewed that mandate in April 2021. We won the procurement, highly competitive, but we treat the City of Toronto's green bin waste, and as well as the region of Peel, which was the first long-term contract ever awarded for green bin processing at an anaerobic digestion facility. Another bioenergy reference of ours is a biodiesel facility that we acquired last year in Miami, Florida. So we are a small producer of about 10 million gallons of biodiesel per year. And you know, we acquired that facility to lever our knowledge of treating waste products and converting them into high value energy products. In this case, we're taking used cooking oil and converting that into biodiesel. In another facility that we have right now in development, this is a renewable natural gas facility in Leamington, Ontario. We're currently flaring about 200,000 gigajoules per annum of biogas, and we are going to polish that into RNG and inject that onto the Enbridge pipeline, very similar to what we're doing in Southgate, which is also coincidentally about 200,000 gigajoules per annum of RNG. And then lastly, the snapshot of Southgate Renewables, which you know very well. So we're very excited to complement our existing bioenergy facilities with this new facility. Very excited to work with the township. So I'll turn it over now to Mark to discuss the site extension opportunity.
Thank you, Jason. Jason, why don't we keep you as the owner of the slides, and I'll ask you to page turn.
Perfect.
Rather than spending
no
time
problem.
swapping around.
Yep, great.
Council, you can see on this slide the layout of the phase 1 of the Eco Park, showing the various companies and projects that are taking place. You can see the project designation as Petawawa, now rebranded, as Jason mentioned, as Southgate Renewables, on the south side of the Eco Parkway. And the white lands to the south and the white lands to the east are shown on this slide as not available for development. And through conversations we've had over the past months with Dave Milner and his team, it appears that these lands may be an opportunity for development of the Southgate Renewable Project. And we're very interested to pursue this opportunity because, as you can appreciate, our site is only 5 acres. It is constrained on the west side by the floodplain and ditch that's running along the west side of the project, which constrains the project. And on the east side of the project, the green development has taken place on the adjacent 5-acre parcel. So the only opportunity to make this project a little bit easier in terms of allowing a larger truck turning radius, a little bit more maneuvering, and some maneuverability on the tank farm to allow space to work and construct and operate amongst the tanks, would be the lands to the south and lands to the east. Jason, if you could push to the next slide, please. This is a photograph provided by Terry showing the white lands, and she's stippled it in a yellow highlight marker here, showing the adjacency to the existing site and surrounding and merging to the south and to the east of the adjacent property, which is the white area. This is the Green Arm project footprint. You can see the floodplain setback areas, the hazard lands, which are abutting the industrial park. We've had a preliminary look from Abood Environmental on the areas, and they believe that a portion of these areas are available for development. Not 100% because of the various hazard land constraints, but we'd like to work with Abood to further define the available space that could be adjacent to our existing site, and then redefine the layout based on these available lands, and proceed, as Jason mentioned earlier, with the amendment documentation that's required to make this project a little bit more spacious and give us some skating room for future possible development of the activities. Our request that we're making tonight is that the lands, given that they pose similar constraints to the existing land we have, that is floodplain setbacks, wetlands, etc., are vended to us at the same price as our initial land transaction, and that we proceed forthwith to put these acres, approximately 8 acres in total, into the mix, and that we close the transaction immediately, initiate discussions with the Grand River Conservation Authority to ensure that they are consistent with our ideas and that we have their approval to develop these lands. And we'd like to do this immediately and then move ahead with the development of the project. Jason, I think that was the last slide.
Correct, yes. Yeah, and just to add again, the developable portion of those 8 acres is only 2.88 acres. So we would be preserving the non-developable portion in accordance with the engineering study by Abood.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions or comments from council?
I have a question, John.
Oh, there you are, Brian. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation, gentlemen. Very clear as to where you're headed and what you'd like to do. My question would be, has Abood or yourselves had any discussions with Grand River Conservation as to their thoughts on your proposal here?
Brian, for the past 2 years, we have been in several negotiations and discussions with the Grand River Conservation Authority concerning the site, the existing site, concerning the floodplain setback that impedes development of the site. And we have received GRCA's approval on our existing footprint. And we intend to continue these discussions with the GRCA to ensure that they agree with Abood's preliminary proposal that there are developable lands, and that GRCA will agree to our expansion of the site towards the south and towards the east. We are all well aware of the constraints and the wetland setbacks, the floodplain setbacks, and we think that the GRCA would agree to allow us to develop part of the lands that are outside of those setback constraints. And we would work with ABUD and VRCA to make sure that that is the case.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Michael? And then Martin.
Thanks, guys. Is it just mostly for a roadway to get the tractor trailers back in to dump? Is that the reason why we're needing more area around the backside?
Apologies, could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, just wondering, is it, I know when we sent our organics down there, we sent it in a tractor trailer with a pup on it, so they're 40-yard containers. So is it mostly just a driveway to get back in so we can dump into the facility and get out?
The existing constraints on the site are such that there is not a lot of maneuverability around our footprint and the storage tanks and the anaerobic digester. With this expansion opportunity, it would allow better access, more maneuverability, and possible space for an expansion in the future of the project. So it's all of the reasons for expanding the site. Please remember that the overall environmental idea we had for the project, and that we agreed with your council and with the Ministry of the Environment, which is activities will take place inside the building, negative pressure building, air filtration, the digestate management taking place inside the building. None of that will change. This is really a matter of maneuverability around the site and giving us a little bit more skating room, as I've mentioned, for access and truck access and operations and maintenance access.
Okay, great, thank you. Martin.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things you mentioned with and you just answered my question, I think, for one of them, that the initial plans and site plans for this, after a while, Mr. Bell brought back and everything was decided on about being inside, about having no odor. So the redesign you mentioned in this presentation, that is just basically to get your trucks around. It's got nothing to do with anything else. Everything else stays the same, because you mentioned flaring. There is not going to be that much flaring in the Dundalk site because it is close to residential. So what's the flaring issue come into? Because
yes,
that is a byproduct to make natural gas, which is the only part of making natural gas, basically, from what I understand, not exactly clean as far as emissions. So how much of that flaring will happen?
Well, the flaring that Jason mentioned was in relation to the project in Leamington, where biogas is currently wasted. It's flared. The idea is to capture that gas and to stop the flaring. The design at the Southgate project is to stop that, is to capture all the biogas from the get-go, inject it into the Enbridge grid, and we're working diligently with Enbridge to make that happen. So the flaring would only happen in an extreme emergency situation. Normal course of business is to capture the methane, clean it up, and inject it into the Enbridge grid. And I do want to just emphasize that the environmental considerations that we have agreed with you are sacrosanct. We assure and are committed to making this project an outstanding environmental project. So there are no changes from an environmental point of view as to what you know, what we've agreed, and what the Ministry of the Environment has opined upon and given us the permit for.
Okay. Can I have a follow-up, Chair? John, please?
Yes. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. I was talking to the EDO office today, Terry, and she mentioned something about, you know, you're obviously going to be a wet industry. The wet the water units are pretty tight right now. Because of that and because of things coming up, the basic question is, it's been around for a long time. When are you guys going to put the shovel in the ground to get it going? Because this is probably the 5th or 6th time we've talked to Mr. Bell. So it'd be nice to have an idea of when all this is said and done. It's going to be a year, 2, 3. Could you answer that roughly?
Certainly. As you're aware, we have negotiated with you the land purchase transaction in October of last year, which has some milestones in it. One of them is for construction to commence by a year following, which would be October of this year. And we intend to comply with that arrangement by doing the preparatory site cleanup and grading, etc., prior to the winter, with the expectation that permits are going to fall in line. The two primary ones being, of course, the site plan agreement we have to negotiate and finalize with you, and the small amendment to the ECA documentation, which, as Jason mentioned earlier, doesn't require modifications to the overall process, but only the fact that we've reconfigured some items on the site, which means we have to go through the whole rigmarole with them again for a reconfirmation of the inputs and outputs. But that should be a relatively minor situation, which means that we can be in full construction in 2023 with the idea of being operational at the end of 2023.
So I'll just add that.
Thank you.
There are only 3 commercial privately owned anaerobic digesters like the one you see on the screen in Ontario right now. And I believe you went to see the BioN facility in Elmira, and you're invited to come to Leamington if you ever can make your way out there. We're happy to organize a trip out there. It's a bit of a drive, but you can see that we're ready to build a marquee facility. And again, there's only a handful of these that exist at this scale currently, and it is very important that the additional lands are going to help us maneuver and lay out the design and optimize the design. And at 5 acres currently, it's very, very tight. And we just want to, make sure that this is the best facility that can be built in that area, as it'll be one of the few, and I believe it'll make the township very proud of that eco park. And that's one of the reasons why we rebranded it, because we wanted to recognize the township. So yeah, it's very important that we get the land availability first before we can do the final layout, before we submit the slight amendment to the ECA. And once that's back from the ECA, from the Ministry of the Environment, we're ready to put shovel in the ground.
That's great. Thank you. Barbara?
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Hello, and nice to meet you, Jason. Just to touch on a couple of things, that visit to Elmira was in the last term of council. That's how long this had been in the works of development and figuring it all out. So kudos to Mark for sticking it out. And the other thing that I did want to acknowledge with development is we've experienced another development in Southgate that went through all of these processes year after year, only to get to the site plan stage and someone saying, you're just not going to be able to move your truck around, and they need more land. So, I appreciate that you are looking to do this in the best possible way. You mentioned, my actual question was you mentioned in your presentation, municipal green bin source separated organics. We had discussed previously, number of years ago, the possibility of taking our Southgate organics. And I wondered if you could expand on that, if that has been determined as being a viable resource. Does it need to be screened before it comes to you? Do you take it in an as-is situation? I remember the tour of Elmira, and they had an ability to screen out the things that people are wish composting. I'll leave that to you. That's my question. And thank you for touching on the fact that nothing in the technical aspects, the negative pressure delivery and exit and all of those other things will remain the same.
Thanks, Barbara. Nice meeting you as well. So the facility in Elmira, the BioN facility, those are our colleagues. So we formed a procurement company or a cooperative in 2014 called Cornerstone Renewables, and the two commercial scale members are us and BioN. So we've been partners for over a decade, not only in Cornerstone Renewables, but the technology that we both built our plants with comes from Austria. And so we work very closely together. And so a lot of the experiences that both the Elmira facility and the facility that you see on the screen have learned have become adopted by the biogas industry in Canada. Because again, we're the pioneers. We built the first two facilities. The one on the screen is the first, and the Elmira facility was the second. Elmira learned a lot from our experience. We built this in 2010, commissioned, started processing in January 2011. Originally, these facilities collected mixed commercial organic waste and agricultural waste. And a number of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, we won the first contract in the history of the country to process green bin waste at an anaerobic digestion facility. And that contract was with the region of Teal. So since then, other municipalities, other regional municipalities, including York Region, the City of Toronto, have started looking to divert their green bin waste from composting, aerobic composting, which has been proven to be have a lot of odors and mechanical issues, have a lot of downtime, and anaerobic digestion has become the favored technology to treat green bin waste. Not only now in Ontario, but that's a revolution that's happening across North America. And so to answer your question, yes, we process exactly what's in that box. And in the, in that white building that you see there, that's a reception building, which has negative pressure, so not to release odors. That's where we depackage. So we depackage the inorganic fraction, which is approximately 15%, 10-15% of the material that comes in. And then we process the organics into a slurry that then is digested for up to 30 days or so. So that is what we do. We still take in some agricultural waste, and we still take in some commercial waste from the food industry, etc. That may have packaging as well.
Barbara, if I may add, the township has a composting program for your green bin waste that Jim and Dave operate. We don't want to take away the flow of your township's organics towards your own composting facility, but we can if necessary, and if you wish to do so, we could do that.
I see. Thank you.
Thanks.
I was wondering because people do enjoy the out product, the soil that we benefit from for having participated in the green bin. And Jason, they're all white buildings. Can you point out the one that you were referring to as the processing screening area? Can you identify the difference in the buildings for us?
Sure. Can you see my cursor?
Yes, ma'am, sir.
Okay. So what we're doing here in this on this image is so the trucks come in. I'm sorry that this is not an overview, so you bear with me. The trucks come through this road and start off by going over a weigh scale, and that's how we they're charged for the tonnage that they bring in, and they get weighed on the way out, and the difference is what they are charged. A fee on the tons brought in. The trucks turn and drop their contents in this building here. This is our reception building. And in there, again, there is depackaging equipment and processing equipment. After that, we have in this particular technology, we have 3 thermophilic tanks. This is one of them. You can see there's another one in the background. So this is this processes in an anaerobic environment in a vessel for up to 48 hours at a temperature of 60 degrees, and breaks down the material, and then it gets pumped into a thermophilic vessel, which you see here with the domes. There's actually 3 of them now. You can see here there's a new building which we just constructed in 2021. So we have now 3. 2 have the dome feature. The 3rd one is not designed with the dome. So we have 3 that, and the slurry sits in these vessels for about 30 days at a temperature of about 30 degrees or so. And the gas from that travels underground to here. This is a combined heat and power plant, and we produce electricity, renewable electricity, that's sold to the province of Ontario through a feed-in tariff contract that is 20 years. And the heat that's generated from the combined heat and power system goes to the 7-acre greenhouse that you see in the background. And we provide the heat for that greenhouse. And then we're also integrated, and you see a large hot water tank here. So the heat from the engines heats the hot water in this tank, and then the hot water travels through the greenhouse and provides the thermal energy required at the greenhouse. Their water treatment system as well brings in, potable water, and the wash water of the greenhouse gets pumped back into our system, and we use it as processed water. So we polish the water and then recycle it back to the greenhouse as well. So it's a very interesting closed renewable loop that we've built here.
Final, Mayor Woodbury?
Yep, go ahead.
That, it's fascinating. The water taking is minimal because you will repurpose it through the system. And the storage tanks that are between the coverall and the domed, and the one that you just built that isn't domed, are they closed? My understanding was that there would be no exposure to the environment. It's a closed system. Everything goes through a pumping process.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be closed because it's in an anaerobic environment. So it's all contained. There's no oxygen in these vessels.
Temperature
Yeah, it's a
controls
very,
and all
very
of that.
toxic environment, and a lot of nasty, natural gases, similar gases that you'd find underground at a landfill when the landfill decomposes organics that are buried there, creates a biogas underground. What we're doing is taking that same process but containing it in vessels so it doesn't escape into the atmosphere. It never does. Always
Right.
in a controlled environment.
Well, and Enbridge, who has presented to us with Mark, has indicated, I mean, they don't want anything to escape because that is precious natural gas that they want to pipe into their line. So it's very interesting. Thank you.
And I'll just add that one thing that does come out of the system is the pasteurized organic material, and that's in inert form. And that is, it's a digestate, but we're the first project in the country that has a CFIA label. So it is a fertilizer. It's labeled a fertilizer by the federal government, but we also have organic certification for it. So that goes to organic farmers and qualifies for their organic farming process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
I'm not seeing any more hands at the moment. So, there's Jim. Go ahead, Jim.
This is a very interesting project, and I think Mark has finally hit the nail on the head with this one. Is there going to be is there sufficient space for all of the inside storage of this organic waste? Rhondda produces an awful lot of green bin material.
Yes. So Jason, if I may, we are limited to our Minister of the Environment permit of 73,000 tons per year, and as part of the permit requirement, the stipulation is essentially there is no storage of green bin waste. It's a pass-through. We receive trucks. We have minimal storage of the material. You wouldn't want to store it. You want to process it and get it into the digester as soon as possible and let it sit there in the controlled environment once you've processed the material. So there's very limited storage of organic materials at the site.
Second question, Mark, is that are you prepared to renegotiate the royalty with the EDO?
Well, we're prepared to have constructive discussions, Jim, with your group as we conclude the site plan agreement, and certainly it would make everyone's life easier if we had a little bit more skating room with the acquisition of these territories and these acres we're talking about. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. And Michael, you had something, and then I think we should be moving on shortly.
I just want to refer, I've used this facility in Elmira, and I mean, they are tonnage based, so they're only allowed so many tons a day to come into these facilities. I mean, Leamington was the only one that we could take to all the time, but Elmira had tight restrictions for when we could take loads there. So yeah, it's a good program. How many trucks a day are we looking at this one then?
I think we had in the range of 5 to 10 trucks a day, depending if they're fully loaded or not and how far they're coming from.
And the only thing I've seen with our trucks that was delivering is the tailgate seals would leak, and that the smell of this stuff isn't the greatest. But as long as it's inside and they're being washed off, and that you're inspecting the trucks before they leave and head down the road, I guess that's all we can ask for. Your due diligence that way.
That's included in the Minister of the Environment permit.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we've never had a breach of our environmental permit at Seacliff after 11 years of operations. So that's interesting that you bring that up, Michael, because that is part of our policy there is the trucks get washed out before they leave.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions at the moment, so thank you very much, Jason and Mark, for the presentation. It's always been a good professional go dealing with Mark, and it's good to meet you, Jason. And we will, with staff, look into this. And I think one of the key things is if this is a go, that we'll move on as quickly as we can to get the process and everything help out for you, so that no sense dillying around with municipal or provincial red tape. Let's get on with it. So thank you very much, and we will be seeing you again in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep, thanks, Jason.
Mayor Woodbury, thank you very much.
Yep. So we have the motion to receive for information. Any further discussion? Okay. Is anyone opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. And then we will move on to adoption of the minutes moved by Martin, seconded by Jason. And that's the minutes of March 2nd. Any discussion on that? Seeing none. Anyone opposed to that? Okay, and that is carried. Municipal officers reports. Okay, Derek, I have a motion here moved by Michael, seconded by Jim, about the training wage. I saw Derek's name up there somewhere. There you are. Anything you wanted to add to that report, Derek?
I think the report basically says for itself, and I'll take any questions at this point, I guess.
Okay, let's see if anybody has any. Nope. It's looking pretty quiet. I have one. How does this fit in with the budget?
So the budget will absorb it, no problem. We didn't hire the deputy chief for the first quarter, so the wages will cover this. There'll be no addition to the budget.
Okay. Not seeing any other. Oh, Michael?
I just kind of wonder, are the members of the fire department willing to spend 3 hours of their time at practice? I mean, my biggest thing was, 2 hours, you're giving up your time. Now you wanted them to stay there for 3 hours on Tuesday nights when you got families, sports, and everything else, that things open back up again. Are they okay with it?
Yeah, we had a meeting amongst our members, and majority of other departments are doing every week. Our members figured it would be better if we're already there, spend an extra hour. It makes sense. It keeps us from being there every week, so they can still have family lives outside of it.
Okay, yeah. And pretty tough to get all the stuff in that's demanded of you now in training through the fire marshal's office without extending the hours somewhat. Any other questions, comments? Okay, Martin?
Thanks, John. Hi, Derek. I've got no problem with this. I was just wondering, in your comments, it was mentioning discussions with the province regarding mandatory certification. And then it says there was and is no concrete answer for this question of training nights. So is this bringing up with 3 hours, is it bringing us up or going over and above the norm? Like, is this a benchmark, or is it just good logistics for you? It makes sense. Because I know there's a lot of things the government wants to put down as certification, and some of it's quite, I think, silly for volunteer firefighters. It's quite quite absorbed, as John said. So it's a good thing, but are we going over and above a benchmark that we already had? Like,
So great question. Answer to that is no. With the discussions with the province about mandatory certification, they are under the impression that we need to bring more safety. Many different, like plumbers, carpentry, mechanics, they all have licenses. They all have certification. Police do. So why are firefighters not? So no matter what, a firefighter in Toronto has to have firefighter 1, firefighter 2, hazmat awareness, hazmat ops, going across the board, even volunteer fire departments. So that comes in 2026. When, for the no concrete answer, that was excuse me, that was a question that a bunch of fire departments asked. Does the OFM have any idea of what we should be training our firefighters a month, a year, how much? There is no answer that they could provide us with that. When looking locally around us, Shelburne's practicing weekly, Grey Highlands is practicing weekly, West Grey's practicing weekly. So we're actually behind what everyone else is doing. And then when you break it down, it breaks out to each firefighter, each member is doing 40 hours of Tuesday night training nights, not truck checks, but actually Tuesday night training nights, going through the skills. We asked ourselves a hard question. Is that sufficient enough time for our members to be trained every year to be able to go interior attack firefighting, exterior attack firefighting, auto extrication, medical calls, some sort of hazmat calls that we go, fluid leaks. In our mind, if you break that down, divided by all those, it's not enough time. So
not enough.
we sort of decided that instead of doing weekly, because that's hard to give up every week to go there, our members figured we'd start off first by add an extra hour. We're there anyways. Usually the guys leave at 9 o'clock. What are they doing to 10 o'clock going home? They've all agreed they will stay to the 10 o'clock. With that comes a little bit more compensation, obviously. And this is how we can bring our numbers in our training. So.
Yeah. Sounds good. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Derek. And yeah, and the consequences of not doing the training, like you say, is the safety, and we've seen what that does. Not seeing any other hands, I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to the motion? That is carried. Okay, thank you, Derek. And I look forward to meeting the new deputy, Dave, and seeing how things are progressing with that. It'd be good to talk to somebody that's kind of the same vintage as I am with the fire service. So yeah, no smart remarks about the horses pulling the wagon. Okay, so we can move on now to Kevin, and we have the Memorial Park facility upgrade, moved by Jason and seconded by Martin. Hey, Kevin, do you want to add anything to your report?
Yeah, the report's kind of, we've been cutting and pasting it because the funding isn't 100% secured yet and we can't announce the funding. But when the agreement come back to us, we had to come up with another $76,000 for our portion if we are successful in securing the grant. So we had to have that part done, and the timeline on the project is so short that we asked if we could start the RFP process to get it out because the project has to be done January. So it's pretty short timeline to secure a contractor and get this built. The only other comment I might have is that when we budgeted this project, it was 2 years ago. So we may end up finding with the cost of lumber and the cost of everything that, you know, we may have to increase our portion. But at this point, as you can see, it's we're only committing 20% to the project. So if we find that it goes up, we're still getting a building possibly at 50% or 50 cents on the dollar.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. And yeah, we've all seen what's happening with construction costs, as well as trouble booking contractors with the hard time they're having getting help. Any questions or comments? Barbara and Brian. Go ahead,
Thank
Mark.
you. Hi, Kevin. So, hi. The construction, provided the funding comes through and provided we get the RFP out and we get a contractor, will this interfere with the 2022 pool season at all? Or when do you anticipate the construction actually happening?
Yeah, so in the RFP, we kind of put that timeline in that they had to start September 1st. So
Okay.
that's going to be a short build, but yes, both projects will hopefully not affect our summer usage.
Awesome. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed that you can announce something soon.
Okay, thanks. Brian?
My question is regarding the overall effect or impact to the pool facility as a whole. What sort of a lifespan will this add to the pool before the next major upgrade?
So to answer the probably correctly on this is really just a Band-Aid fix. We've put off that multi-use facility, which kind of might have included a pool. So that building that's sitting there now is falling down. I'm pretty sure if we put a structural engineer in there, we wouldn't be having swimming lessons. So this is a grant that come available, which fit the retrofit. We do have to do some additions to green energy and accessibilities to get the grant. So this is just extending the life of that swimming pool. It could extend it 10 years, 15 years, could extend it 20 years. It's just, but something had to be done with that building or close the pool.
Thank you. That's a good answer, Kevin, because I was just on the Wellington North Rec Committee meeting last week, and they're in the early stages of replacing the pool down there in Mount Forest. First number is $5.5 million. So a small expense like this to extend the life of this pool is well worth it in my mind. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, is anyone opposed to this? And that is carried. Thank you, Kevin. And
Thank you.
Thanks to you and your staff for all the stuff you do with the facilities. I don't think a lot of people realize how much work gets put into extending life and to making them really usable facilities. So thanks again. Jim, we've got your reports next. Moved by Barbara, seconded by Brian, and that's about the vehicle charging stations. How are you tonight, Jim?
Good, thank you. Good evening, good people. This report is some information that Terry and I dug into, and this EPCOR application right now is what we're looking for to proceed with submitting that application for the opportunity for the funding. And then again, it ties in with the LAS canoe procurement program, which Flow is a supplier for chargers. So we don't have all the information for you here. We have some estimates sort of, but this is basically asking right now to proceed with getting the application in for the end of March to EPCOR for that opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's a thing that's coming, so any questions or comments? Okay, Jason.
Yeah, so it's 20,000 we'd be putting in. Am I reading that right? But I understand it's coming, but I don't know. I guess it's politically incorrect to not talk about the environment, but I'm just wondering if this is a little, for our area, if it's a little ahead of the time. Like, if we put this in, do they pay every time they fill their, or however you do it, electricity? How does that work?
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so the 40,000 is the total price project cost estimate right now. We don't have the actual flow, and installation cost numbers, but that's the general what has been in the industry is what we're being told. We would get $20,000 worth of grant money through EPCOR, and then the flow pricing, we haven't seen totally that number yet, but we're looking for dual charging stations, so it would be 4 spaces that could plug in. Dufferin County have these implemented. I believe some municipalities have them where they're free for hookup and you carry on. These level 2 chargers give you a couple hours, will give you about 30 kilometers or so. And the pricing that basically I've researched on the level 2 chargers is the normal is about $1 per hour. You could charge if you wish to, up to about $2.50 per charge. So if you need a charge and you only say your charge is done in an hour and 3/4 or something, I guess if however you punch it in that you could pay that $2.50 as opposed to $1 an hour if you're on there for 5 hours or whatever. But the level 3s are a lot more aggressive. They're for fast charge and they give you a lot more mileage, but they come at a price of like $100,000 each. This is a good opportunity to bring people in off the highway, to take a stop in downtown Dundalk and have that opportunity to get out and see our community. So, you know, these vehicles, I know a friend of mine has one. He can go quite a distance on a charge, but it's those people that are wanting to stop in, stretch their legs, boost up a charge for a short period of time and know they're getting to Tobermory or wherever they're heading. So it's an opportunity. It is going to be a way of some of the future for sure. And this funding also is open to other private that can get into it. If, you know, the gas station wanted to put one in, or Tim Hortons, they have opportunities to jump in on this type of program as well. But this is an opportunity. It's knocking on the door, so we present it to council.
Okay, thanks. Any more, Jason?
Well, no, I just, I guess maybe a bit of a follow-up. Yeah, I understand this is coming eventually down the road. I'm just wondering if it's a bit too soon in light of the high gas prices. Like, I don't think there's under 1% of the people driving an electric car, and you know, what are we doing for the people with the gas cars? So I don't know. I think it's a little early, but that's just my opinion. So.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Barbara.
Thank you. Hi, Jim. I participated in a webinar about, you know, the electric vehicles and the need for the infrastructure to be as convenient as, you know, a corner gas station where you go in, you put in your card, you fill it up. They need to be fast charging, otherwise, you know, somebody's parked there. The location that you're selecting, Jim, seems to be a good idea, brings them downtown. A couple of questions, perhaps to you and Terry, is signage, as you said, bring people in from the highway. I'm going to assume that there would be some kind of signage, EV charging station. I guess you have to declare what kind of level it is, because, I mean, if they were really running low, 30 kilometers isn't going to get them across the township to Highway 6, that's for sure. But I've been mentioning this for several years, actually, when, you know, every so often there's opportunities to take advantage of some funding. And I would support there being a charge, so, you know, that we're not sponsoring the electricity. If we have to outlay $20,000, I don't think that we should be charging, or we should be, you know, on the hook for the person's charge. The only other thing, we haven't got the funding yet, we haven't been installed. How do you prevent someone from parking there and plugging in, you know, overnight? I guess, you know, if they want to, they're going to pay, as long as they're paying for the hydro and maybe a bit of a premium to help compensate for the 20,000. Any thoughts on the signage and logistics of going forward? Jim got his hand up.
Yep. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I don't know about the signage part totally yet. We may have to research that a little bit, but Flow does have an app, and these people that are driving these cars go to these apps, and the apps tell you where to go for charging. So, you know, all this technology is giving you all this information all the time. It would be signed that, you know, these parking spaces are for dedicated to this. It's same as accessibility type parking. The reason we chose that location is, and actually we've already got the conduit in for the future. That was part of the parking lot design, that the hydro feed's there for it. It's not got to go any further. So that opportunity was there for us. So that's why we ran the conduit while we were there. But I'm not sure if Terry's dug into it a little bit deeper on her side of things about communicating it, but that's what, in my readings, what I found, that these apps tell you where to go for charge. And that 30 kilometers is, that 1 hour gives you a 30 kilometer. So if you are charging for 3 hours, that gives you 90 kilometers. Again, yes, it's slow, but you know, it's a stop in, get out of the car, check things out, stretch your
Have
legs,
dinner.
get a quick charge. So keep you going.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim.
Terry, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, that's Jim's correct. There's a lot of technology that comes in the car and then apps with the car, and also Google Maps. We can add them on as a stop on Google Maps. So people just have to search it and they pop up. And a lot of local people don't drive electric cars, but a lot of the tourists do that are coming up through for sure. And it's part of the downtown revitalization, tourism, and definitely a charge per use would be my choice. And right now it's not regulated how much we're permitted to charge. So that is something open for council discussion, is the fee that we would like to charge to recoup that cost. And the fee, so as long as they stay plugged in, they're paying. So they won't stay plugged in, they'll get what they need and go.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Martin, then Michael.
Yeah, thanks, John. Good evening, Jim. You mentioned there's 2 dual pedestal. I'm looking at page 87. Are we looking at the Smart 2 on the left-hand side of the page, the rugged level 2 charging station? Or have you picked out which one you're looking at for the grant?
You'll just have to give me a minute to pull it up.
Yeah,
here.
sorry about that. I was just looking.
Mayor Woodbury, I don't follow page 87. I'm on eScribe and I go to the, which attachment is it, Councillor Shipton?
Oh, it's the, sorry, it's,
Is it the one on the screen?
yeah, that one. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I'm looking at 2 screens here. My apologies.
Okay.
Which one are you looking at there then, Jim? For being a dual pedestal, what is?
Yeah,
Because the parking lot's not that big.
No, it's the one towards the bottom on the right side. It says Smart 2 BSR.
Oh, okay.
That's the type.
Well,
they have a couple of different other variations of the pedestal, but that's the Flow gave us this one. I do have another Ideal Supply, which is Flow features as well, but it's a little bit different looking as far as the pedestal, and the charger looks to be a little bit higher up as opposed to what's in this brochure here.
Okay, no, that looks good. And there obviously won't be.
Model would be your level 3 charger. The one that looks like the gas pump, that's a level 3.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Michael.
I'm just kind of wondering about the maintenance of these. Who's in charge of paying for the maintenance once they're installed is one thing, but with the weather and everything and people using them and vandalism and stuff like that, who's responsible to keep them in working order? Whose cost?
Well, they become a township asset, so we would have to take on the liability if someone drives away in the the cord gets yanked off it or whatever, or someone comes along and cuts it off, that would be our responsibility. As far as my research, so we are not leasing it, right? We are owning it. So.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead again, Mike.
Just a follow-up. Yeah, I've seen a lot of them in different gas stations throughout. I see Canadian Tire in Mount Forest now has them there. So are those ones owned by Canadian Tire, the ones in Mount Forest, or are they privately owned too by Mount Forest or North Wellington? Does anybody know?
That's something I don't know. I'd have to find out.
It looks like Brian knows something, so we're going to go to Brian.
I think they were installed by the town with an agreement from Canadian Tire to use the edge of the pavement or the edge of the parking lot there. But yeah, I mean, they are susceptible to vandalism. Within a week of them going in there, they had an incident. But from what I understand, after that, they've been good. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, not seeing any. We'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to this motion? And I'll declare that carried. Next, we move on to the wheel load scales with Grey County. And that is moved by Michael and seconded by Jason. Did you want to add anything to that, Jim? Go ahead.
Well, we currently are in the program with 4 other lower tier municipalities for the portable scale program with the OPP. And Grey County has talked with those municipalities before, and they've approached about buying into the program as well for their load restricted roads, like in Southgate would be Grey Road 23 and Grey Road 8. So that's just giving them the opportunity to come in and pay each municipality the portion that was outlaid in the beginning to have that enforcement as well while they're in our communities. So.
Makes sense to me. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Anyone opposed? And that will be carried. And next we move on to the bylaw for that, moved by Martin, seconded by Barbara. Any discussion on the bylaw? No, then I'm going to take a break and let Lindsay do the vote.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote called for bylaw 2022-033 for the portable wheel load scales agreement. Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Councillor Dobreen?
In favor.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Great, thank you. Next, we have a motion moved by Michael, seconded by Jason, and that is the Dundalk Main Street Memorial bench request. Did you want to add anything to that report, Jim?
Well, this came in and, unfortunate accident that happened during that time, but I think the location and that island that's there, and for people walking, you see them going around, it gives them a break spot. I think it's a good idea. It's back from the county road. I don't see a concern with that of sitting on the backside. We have room still to do the snow removal. The county's got no objections to this. So, it's kind of a first for us in that regard. So, it's recognizing that tragedy. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? The only comment I have, and I'm in support of this, I think it's a good spot for it and that, but I think we have to be very careful with memorial things. First responders get to a point where they know where things are by the bad things that have happened there. And so for our firefighters and paramedics and even the police in the area, having reminders as they drive through to do their or normal business of some of the messier calls that they've been at isn't a good thing. Like I say, I'm in support of this bench, but I think requests that we get, we have to keep in mind not just the request, but what it can do to some of the people that that serve us around and step out quite a bit. So that's my 2 cents worth. Anyone else have any other questions or comments? Okay. Is anyone opposed to this? And that is passed.
I'm not.
Okay. Next, we have a motion moved by Martin, seconded by Michael, and that's the road tenders recommendations. It's up to you again, Jim.
I'll just field any questions if council has any.
Sounds fair. Let's see. Anyone have any questions or comments? Barbara.
Very minor. You mentioned the Southgate 26, the hot mix paving for that area, and is that the same contribution by the homestead developer as it was the last time, or is this another? That is just carrying over from last year?
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, that's just a carryover of what the developer contributed because the project didn't quite get finalized. So again, yeah, there's been no change to the developer contribution. So
thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any more hands, so oh, Jason, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
And microphone on, microphone off.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah. No.
Okay. Yeah.
Just wonder on the brusher head, Jim. I see it's, what is it, 170,000 from a 55. Is that, what was that brusher head that we used last fall that we demoed? What kind of a machine was it compared to this? Just wondered.
Go ahead, Jim.
oh. Yeah, when Phil did the research on this, and the rental one that we had last year that we piloted was a self-drive engine, so an engine on top of it. But we were looking for the hydraulic driven unit, and that's what he thought he had pricing on. But obviously, we've been led down a different path, so that's why our budget number didn't come anywhere close, and that's why apparently it's not compatible, that loader, the way it's equipped to do that drive of a hydraulic unit. So we had to, that's why we're pulling that off and not recommending or asking for the to go and purchase it, but we are looking at more rental option again for the year to maybe use the similar type unit on the that we had last year on the loader through the summer. We also got talking too, you know, to invest in that much and to think we're going to run the loader year doing that stuff or as much as we can. We only have a loader in each yard for loading sand and the one at the waste department. So to take a loader out of service, you pretty well need to dedicate a machine if you want to go year round with it or as much as possible, because it would be too cumbersome to take it off and on during the winter to load sand or whatever. So again, rethinking that a little bit further as we've learned along the way, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just wondering what that one was last year. I was talking to Doug on the road. I was impressed with it. It made a nice job. So
okay,
just wondering.
Yep, Martin.
Thanks, John. Hi again, Jim. In the staff comments, you said 2 submissions for the sidewalk machine, and I realize it reads that there will be a report to follow, but what? Just enlighten me, what kind of engine specifications and emissions? Are you looking for a bigger size equipment or a smaller one to keep the emissions down as regards to our greenhouse gas emissions, like net zero kind of plan we have, because that sidewalk machine would be used quite a bit. So is that one of the reasons why you're looking at the specs to keep the emissions low as per, our township plan to try and keep things green?
Go ahead, Jim.
Or you're just looking for the bigger engine and what have you?
No, it has nothing to do with that type of concept, Martin. It's the one bidder has a machine that is a refurbished. It's basically all redone with revitalizing another unit, more so the chassis and everything. Everything else is rebuilt on top of it new, with a new engine. And we had another supplier who submitted, who's questioning some of the emissions for those type of engines. Are they allowable? So we're having to do a little bit of research into the regulations, and actually we have a question into the federal government on an interpretation of the regulation and engines and their emission status for this refurbished rebuilt. So it's kind of stay tuned right now. It's a little bit of jargon that we don't necessarily understand so much. So anyhow, we're just making sure we're doing the right thing.
Well, that's great that you're doing that. So are there like a little 4-stroke engine, not like a diesel engine, to have that different emissions category that the feds are looking at? That's just what got me thinking about the emissions part. So it's good to know. So I guess you answered my question. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
It's all good.
Michael.
This is for Brian. He'll be glad to know that we're looking at a refurbished one, because it will definitely be cheaper than a new one. So that'll be great.
I wonder if it'll come with a wood chip. Oh yeah, I was supposed to forget about that. Any other questions or comments?
I got nothing.
You will though. Okay, I'll call the question then. Is anyone opposed to this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate. And we'll move on to Dave's reports. First up is the Holstein Dam, and the motion's moved by Barbara, seconded by Brian. Dave, did you want to add stuff to this?
Okay, no, I'm good. The report, I think, spells it out fairly clearly. I'll just take questions.
Okay, sounds like Clint was coaching you on the comments there.
He's my advisor.
Yeah, that sounded like a planning comment. Any questions or comments on this report? Okay, I don't see any. Is anyone opposed to this motion? And that is carried. And next, I bet you'll have some comments on this one. It's the Dundalk Old Town Hall agreements report, moved by Martin, seconded by Michael. Dave, your turn.
So this is there's been a lot of work put into this. These agreements are, as presented, still in some, I would say, some fairly complete level of draft. We are, with approval tonight, we have since publishing these documents, especially, well, all three of them. We've had multiple staff review to just catch errors or repetitive things that didn't get caught. And but the Wellington agreement, with council's approval tonight, we'd send it for legal review. And the JCI and Team Town Hall agreements, they're pretty much ready to go. Team Town Hall have a lawyer that is doing pro bono work for them, and they're going to have it reviewed. But other than that, with some minor changes, I can go over the changes in the Wellington agreement. We're basically catching the change of name from Wellington to Wellington Investment Corp throughout the document. I think I've spelled out most of the changes before publishing. After publishing, there was some changes in relation to number, I believe it was 6. I think that one went through already. No, those were all, except for the investment corp and a few typos, all the changes are in the Wellington document. Changes are very similar since publication with Team Town Hall and JCI. There's been a change to 8.4 and 8.5. And again, catching the investment corp references in the document. 8.4 and 8.5 are just in relation to the clarification of user fees and who collects them, and if they're not collected prior to an event, that either JCI or Team Town Hall would take responsibility for assisting in collecting those fees. The other documentation that was changed a bit is in 14.1, and we worked through that to just make sure there was more clarity on the JCI or Team Town Hall acting reasonably, and that within 90 days notice that there could be a cancellation of the agreement if the things weren't in the best interest for the community, or they weren't fulfilling the terms, conditions, goals, visions of the agreement. And then the other references were in Schedule E, 4 and 5. There has been some change there in relation to, and I believe that is referenced in my report. And that's in relation to property taxes and building insurance being part of the shared costs of the building. And I wasn't familiar with that, but in discussions I've come to learn, and we're going to review that with our lawyer. In long-term lease agreements, they are looked at closer to being ownership type arrangements, and that part of leasehold or lease costs are things like property taxes and building insurance. So that we will be reviewing with our lawyer, and these 3 agreements would be coming back to council on April the 6th for ratification. Next step after that would then be create the board of management we've referred to. We've come around to feeling that that's the best way to manage the town hall from a cultural aspect, and that then there'll be a terms of reference provided to guide the team or the board of management team that would be put together to manage that building. Would be the team, or the board of management would be made up of some members of JCI, some members of Team Town Hall, maybe council membership, and could be membership at large or from other community groups. But that's to be decided in that step of the process. So don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but those 3 agreements are before council tonight for initial approval to be sent and for further review. But we've had several sets of eyes on these, post, like I say, there is a version here in front of me that is today's version, where we're still catching errors that were in relation to names that just weren't caught through the documents.
Okay, thank you, Dave. And I can tell you that sitting in on these some of these meetings with the participants, they've been gone over word for word more than several times. So yeah, Brian, then Martin.
Thank you, John, and happy to see these agreements in their, I don't know what language Dave used there, but they're almost done, nearly done, fairly done format. Happy to see them. Just one comment regarding Schedule E, which is the agreement between the Township and Wellington Corp regarding point number 19. Gray Road 9 Main Street is a county road, so there may be some implications for the county sign bylaw regarding signage on the outside of the building, so just be cognizant of that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We'll get their permission after we put them up. That's a really good point.
Bureaucracy is alive and well at the county, so yeah, just be aware of that. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, send it to the county lawyer to check into it. Martin.
Okay. Something's wrong, Martin.
Yeah, your microphone light's on, but we can't hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just check my internet. I'm on,
Yep.
so. Yeah,
You're good now.
what Brian mentioned, number 19, I was thinking that because it is a county road, but number 6 in E, it talks about lighting equipment, sound systems, curtains, etc. That won't be mainly the town hall bailiwick, won't it? They'll have to look after that. Not working cooperatively, so.
Yeah, so that's basically what that's saying. So the parties, basically, the parties being everyone working together. Like the intent of that is a bit convoluted, and I get that, and we've rewrote that a few times. But basically, what that's trying to say is that let's say we put an elevator in, and the elevator costs are, and that's what I'm referencing here is the elevator costs are the cultural part of the building. But again, with long-term leasehold, that then becomes part of the property. And once it's installed, the costs of operating that elevator, inspections and so on, would be a shared cost of the whole building. So the owner would pay for the inspections. The owner would pay for feature additions. The owner would pay if the motor needs replaced, or some servicing, annual inspections, and so on, as well as the cultural. So those costs will be split up on the shared space area of the building. And we've had a few people kind of take a run at that. Now, the last part of that is that the condition is that it really needs to be bricks and mortar attached to the building. It's not a curtain room to hold up the curtain on the stage. It's not a lighting system that can be put in and taken out. It's not a sound system. So those are peripheral building capital expenses, but not tied to the building owner. I hope that
great.
explains.
Yeah, no, I just saw that. So, and just a comment, it's good. As far as I'm concerned, it's good to go. And we're so far ahead from where we were years ago that we actually have drafts from partners who want to get involved, not just one or two. So good job to the staff and everybody who looked over this. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. And Jason.
Yeah, just to follow up with Martin, that's the point I noticed. Dave, with your explanation there, it still seems pretty, I don't know, to me, I'm not a lawyer, but just to read this, the parties will work cooperatively to share the proportionate cost, the capital cost. It seems pretty open-ended to me. So, I understand what you said, we're going to pay a portion of or this or that of the elevator, but like, how are we going to determine that? It's pretty vague to me.
So there is another section in here that allocates the space of the building. So whatever square footage that the cultural space would be, and the actual square footage of the Herald space would be on first and second floor, not the basement. That's not part of the calculation. But those spaces are then allocate on a proportionate basis. And let's say they'd work out to 60-40 or 50-50 or 45-55. Those would be the allocations to whatever party owns the 45 or has the 45 or 55 space. And those allocations or percentages would be on property taxes, insurance, heat, hydro, maintenance costs, and future capital additions to an original capital project. and I want to make sure I'm clear on capital additions. If we put the elevator in and we want to change the keypad in the elevator, the capital addition of that new keypad would be shared. The original installation of the elevator would be whoever initiates the effort to put it in place.
Okay. All right, Martin, and then Barb. Okay, let's go Barb.
I don't think Martin had his hand up this round, but thank you. So to that point, Dave, to Jason's comment, so to make it really simple, I think I like how you explained that it's future capital additions to original capital investments, as opposed to the private building owner now needs to put on a new roof. That has to do with the building, and that's not part of the initial capital investment. Or, your eyebrows are going up, Dave, because I know Jason has the same similar concerns as I am. Is that ongoing capital? We're on the hook for ongoing capital investment, but what you've just said is that it's future capital addition, so repairs to an elevator. If Team Town Hall or JCI, the Board of Management, want to put in a second floor washroom, that's on them. Or if they need to change the space somehow in their cultural space, that would be on them. That kind of capital investment.
Yeah, so I want to read this first two lines of this statement. And the parties will cooperate, share the cost of the building's future maintenance and the building's future additional capital investments in any asset once a major capital project has been established in the building. So we're going to establish an elevator. And I'm going to go back to, if we put let's say the keypad is old and they can't find a new one, so we have to replace it with a newer version or something. You could call that a capital investment in an existing asset. So the building owner would participate with cultural partners or the Board of Management to fix that up. So the roof, let me take the roof scenario, would be it would be an existing maintenance, or if you want to call it a capital, we put a new roof on years ago because we did. If that roof needs replaced, we would participate in the replacement of that roof because it's a long-term lease agreement.
Okay. I'm finding that your audio is a little garbled at times, Dave, but I think I caught the gist of all of that.
Okay. Yep. I've had problems today with other virtual meetings, so just stop me and if there's a kind of a garbly go with some of the audio.
Okay, thanks. That's the way mine is most of the time. And the audio part's very clear. It's just, yeah. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, the way you talked about the roof, I was expecting that once we were done initially, that would not be our part. If that roof needs replaced, that would be all on Wellington Corp. Nothing to do with anybody else because he is the building owner for the next 20 years. So up to that point, after we give him the initial money to bring the building up to spec to where people can use it, that would be it. I can understand the elevator if we want to put something in that's going to benefit everybody, that we can look and get a grant maybe or something to help find money and help out with that. But a roof on a building would be like the foundation. I don't think we should be fixing it in the 20-year agreement. That money should be Wellington's because he's getting the building for $1,000. So I don't know. That's
and to respond to that, that was my feeling until this got brought up to me. I will, just so you know, going forward, in discussing with our lawyer, I'm going to talk about these things. I don't like the idea of fixing the roof, but again, I go back to when you get into long-term building leases, it's looked at more like an ownership of the building over a longer term, because we can extend this beyond the 20 years. Our involvement would be participating in those more capital improvements, which would be a roof replacement. If some bricks fell off the side of the building, if the windows maybe needed replacing, we'd participate as a partner. Now, I'm going to ask our lawyer about that, to investigate that, but that's as I understand it. I don't like it, but that's the way these longer term leases are structured.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, though, is that it's not necessarily the taxpayers, it's the board of management and the township, so that there could be fundraisers, there could be whatever by the board of management to help with those costs.
For sure, for sure. And that's, to me, that's the part of the terms of reference document that we would establish with the board of management group, that if there's an elevator to be put in place, if there's certain things that, you know, JCI are the not-for-profit organization, we would work with through them to get grants like we did at the arena, and we would look to Team Town Hall to definitely, and you can see that in their agreement, to definitely fulfill a fundraising model for certain projects. And if we see that we need a roof in 5 years, that would be something we'd need to fundraise for and have events for to support that. But at the end of the day, the hook is into the township for making that happen. But it's you know, I think a requirement of council to tether that committee with those kind of challenges to, you know, what percentage is the township going to support that type of those type of investments.
Okay, yep. Jason and then Barbara.
Well, to what Dave just said, what percentage are we going to support? Like, to me, as I stated before, it's so open-ended. Like, you know, to me, we should have then how much, okay, we're going to cover 30% right in this agreement. We're going to cover 20, which I don't think we should be covering any at all. It's a privately owned building. I understand, you know, we put an elevator in the arena. It's a public owned building. I can't get past the fact that it's a private owned building. We're going to throw all this money into it. As I said before, hopefully it's used every week. So I'm just wondering, in a year when we say, okay, he wants a roof or we want an elevator. No. So we do that in a year and a half down the road, spend all the money. And in 2 years down the road, nobody's using the facility. So exactly. We've got a whole bunch of money that we've put out here and nobody's using it. So I just, yeah, well, you know my view on it, but I can't understand putting all this money into a private owned building. That's just where I'm at.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Barbara?
I have to agree. I've worked in companies that have leased their buildings. You know, if the roof leaks, the air conditioner breaks down, the furnace dies, that's on the landlord. That's what you pay rent for. And I know, Dave, you mentioned some time ago that, well, then they're probably going to increase our monthly lease in order to help cover those costs. But we're giving him a building for $1,000 plus $175,000, plus we're paying for the space, which is granted. I think there needs to be a clearly defined, to Jason's point, a clearly defined, not necessarily, you know, we don't contribute anything, but the fundraising part of those things is unknown. And at the end of the day, he still owns the building and he can still sell the building at some point. You know, if the agreement ceases, he can still sell the building, and we have nothing for our investment. So as I've expressed before, I have a concern. I'm glad that you're going to investigate it further and clearly have that defined, because I just don't see if bricks fall off the wall, that's a code, health, safety code, whatever. That's part of the structure he has to make, the owner has to make safe. If somebody breaks a window in the Team Town Hall space, the cultural space, that would be something that, yeah, that would be our insurance, or, you know, that would be something that we would fix. If the second floor washroom or the washroom has a problem, we fix that. I have a concern too, same as Michael and Jason, about these ongoing capital contributions.
So I'm gonna back up a bit and just start with this is different than leasehold costs on renting space, where they maybe pay they pay significant cost per square foot for an office, and there's hallways and there's washrooms out in the hallways that is part of the leasehold costs. This is a building lease per se, and let's use the example of if we put Team Town Hall and JCI want to put a toilet up on the stage for actors to use, that would be a cost of plumbing in. But if the toilet seat has to be repaired, that would be a shared cost of everyone in the building. That's the comparison. And again, if windows, there was a damage to a window, that would be a shared cost of everyone in the building, whether it was a Herald window or it was a window in the cultural space. That's the way that this deal would be structured, because it's a total building lease arrangement as opposed to leasehold costs for an office space on a square footage basis. The cost for an office space would definitely be far and significant of $3,000 a month. If for any typical floor space that would be the size of what we're looking at. But again, different comparisons, different scenarios, and that's something we're going to challenge our lawyer Steve and his team to get into that in relation to these type of building as a whole lease and responsibilities.
Okay, thank you. Brian.
Thanks, John. I have to tend to agree with the previous speakers. And remember, lawyers are not they're not always right. So I would really encourage Dave to push back a lot harder on the lawyer. And I'm not casting any aspersions on any lawyers here. I'm just in general saying lawyers aren't always right, and they'll do what you want them to do if you pay them. So I would suggest pushing back a lot harder on this legal advice we've got so far, because a big part of the reason we've gone down this road is to get the taxpayers out from underneath some of these big capital costs. And I agree with Councillor DeBreen. If in 10 years we've got a wonderful building, or Wellington has a wonderful building there, and he decides to up and sell it, how much is the township going to get out of it? Probably the square root of zip. So, yeah, I'm a little less enthused about this as time goes on, seeing how this is kind of playing out, because it's not really playing out the way that I envisioned it, entirely at least. And so, yeah, I need to see a little bit more pushback on this whole notion of we're going to pay capital costs forever and ever and ever on a building that we don't even own. That makes no sense to me. So that's all I've got for now. Thanks.
So I do want to go back to the comment about, so if he decides to sell, which he could, you have to remember that our agreement with him is going to be registered on title, and it has to inure on to the next people that take on the building. So we really do have control of the building as if we were owners, but not that we own the building. We have the lease and access and rights to be in the building and use the building through a lease arrangement. So with that kind of, what we're told is with that kind of lease, and we'll call it ownership or rights, comes the right of maintaining other parts of the building. Again, I'm going to push back. I don't like it, but I can see the logic to it as well.
Okay. Jason.
Yeah, well, just to talk about the whole agreement, like, so, you know, we're selling it to him for $1,000, giving him $175,000. I guess that's in good faith because that's what it would cost us to demolish it. And then paying the monthly rental fee for the cultural space. So I can see the monthly rental fee for the cultural space if we want to go down that road. The $175,000, like, who wouldn't take this deal? I mean, why wouldn't he take it if he's getting $175,000? You know, if we sell it to him why can't we just sell it to him for $1,000, pay the monthly rental on it, and then let's see if he wants to do the deal? Because I bet you if he's not getting that $175,000, I'm just pretty leery about that. Like, I got no problem if we want to rent the room off him for $3,000 a month, sell it to him for $1,000 outright, and he can do what he wants with it. Like you said, if he wants to sell it in 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, or he can spend what he wants for it. But I'm just really held up on that $175,000 and putting money towards a private owner, as some of the others have discussed now. And it, like I said before, it just seems so open-ended. We could be paying for this capital cost here for the next 20 years, a big project every year. I'm scared of that.
Well, I guess to respond to that is the alternative is keep it, and if we're going to put the building back in order, that we're going to have to spend $3 to $6 million to fix it up. And if you do the math, we wouldn't even get near that in the 20 years of the agreement with all the costs, because I think we looked at $3,000 a month for 20 years would be about 800,000, and the 175 on top of that, and let's say we have to throw another $500,000 into capital costs to replace the roof or to replace some windows or whatever. We're likely reaching 1.5 million, which is half of the lower level or lower cost. So, I mean, I totally understand the discussion, but I'm not sure everyone would line up to take on the costs of providing the life safety and all those costs that are going to be required to put the building back into use, and then have us come in as a partner to work with them going forward. So that's the alternative. I mean, that's basically what you're comparing is and that's just rough math on my part, but 3 million on the low side, 6 million on the top side, and our investment, over 20 years. And the beauty of that, it's over 20 years, so it will be obviously inflated to some degree, but if we have to do something in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, that's $3 million in 2023 or 2024, $2025, not $2042.
Can I have one follow-up, John? Then I'm done.
Yep, go ahead.
So I'm not even sure how to put this. So yeah, it's not gonna cost us that if we don't fix it up. So what if we sell it to somebody for $10,000 or $100,000? Have we ever thought of that? And they use the cultural space. They go to the McIntyre building or something. It's just so much money for a privately owned spot, and I don't know. That's just, I'm rambling here now. I can't get over that money going to a private person. You say it's going to cost us $3 million if we keep it. Well, let's just sell it. Maybe we can sell it for $100,000 or $50,000. I don't know. I'm just saying, and that'll save us a lot of money on both ways.
I'm not. Let me be clear. I'm not arguing with anybody. I'm just providing the alternative. The other part of my discussion that I haven't reported on, as long as we continue with this use of cultural use, I've got a commitment of likely $700,000 over the 20 years in naming rights from Flato. So you know, when you look at fundraising and capital requirements and fundraising and funding sources, we maybe wouldn't have that much invested. But you know, it's gonna take money. There's no doubt about it. Recreation costs, cultural costs. None of these things make money, but I know we can generate revenue from naming rights, which we've got that commitment on to help support, you know, maybe half or 40% of these costs, and fundraising and locally and grants. We'll have to dig in and take on maybe another 50% of what's left.
Okay, Martin. Nope. Yep, there you are.
I'm fine, John. Yep, sorry.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we go to the question? Seeing none. Oh, Jim, go ahead.
I've been going through this agreement for some time now, and I hear Dave saying 20-year lease. I don't see anything in this agreement where it says this is a 20-year lease. It's the purchase of. And then through the whole schedule we have here, it's the purchaser and the buyer. Where in heaven's name do we get the lease in there?
Sorry, Jim, that's in Schedule E of the original purchase and sale agreement. Schedule E is a condition of the sale, and in there it I've looked at this thing so long I can't even find my own stuff. Okay, so point 17 in Schedule E of the Wellington agreement, there's a 20-year lease commencing January 1, 2023 and ending December 31st, 2042.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Lindsay, we probably should go with a recorded vote on this.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote called for staff report CAO 2022-011, the Dundalk Old Town Hall final agreements report. Deputy Mayor Milne.
Yay.
Councillor Shipston.
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen.
In favor.
Councillor Shearson.
Yes.
Councillor Frew. Councillor Frew.
No.
Councillor Rice.
No.
Mayor Woodbury.
Yes.
By a vote of 5 to 2, that's carried.
Okay, thank you.
So
go ahead, Dave. Yep.
If I can have your indulgence, Mayor, I'd like to, I've heard the comments, and my plan is that not to write another report and just bring the bylaws back to approve each one. But I hear the comments, and we're going to dig into this, those issues specifically about the leasing costs and the roof and the, you know, the elevator and those kind of things, as to, you know, is there a way or another formula or format that our lawyer could push back on, you know, creating leasehold versus a building lease type of arrangement. So, but otherwise, I'm going to work with Team Town Hall, because I think the Team Town Hall agreements and JCI agreements are fine as presented, because we didn't have any questions really about them per se. It was mostly about the Wellington Investors or Investment Corp agreement. So that's the approach I'll take, and I hope we can bring back with everybody getting their part of it done to April 6th for further discussion, and hopefully a bylaw, and maybe it will hold the bylaw till April 20th if that's required. But anyway, that's what you're going to see come forward.
Okay.
I appreciate your patience because this has been a long and winding road.
Well, I can tell you, Dave, I've seen you working on this and going through the meetings, and I really appreciate your patience with all this stuff you've been working on with these agreements and trying to put this together. Next, we have 9.4.3, moved by Michael, seconded by Jim, and that's the Randhar Investments Wilder Lake stuff. Yep, see you, Brian. So I'll just say that Brian, this is one of the ones he's declared a conflict on, and he has left. So Dave, I'll let you go with that.
Okay, so what we did was we put the standard pre-servicing agreement before the Randhar Investments Group and their planner, and they came forward with a pre-servicing agreement that's pretty standard. There was one change made by our lawyer, and the other change I want to talk about from a standard agreement that he doesn't like, but and I can understand the cost of doing these projects are highly impacted by securities, and the cost of maintaining those securities can be, significant. In this case, it's somewhere between 20 and 25,000 a year. So what they proposed is they have proposed a property that they've shown me the purchase value. I have the transaction from their lawyer that took place in the last 6 months. So it's well in excess of this number. Lawyers don't like the idea of putting property up with securities, because if we need security, we have to go about and sell it. I guess where I'm going is I think this organization, Randhar Investments, in this Wilder Lake subdivision, they've been working in our community for years, and they're about projects and going forward, and have never not completed a project. So staff are recommending that this is a secure way to take control of that property for a period of time, and use that as our security if needed. Any questions? I guess is where I'm going next. Okay, thank you. I think sometimes looking outside the box can be a good thing. Go ahead, Michael.
Have we ever done this in the past? And is there any liabilities on us on that property then? If we're using it and something happens on that piece of property, is the township liable for anything?
No, we are not an owner. We're a first charge mortgage. We have a mortgage position.
Okay.
I have no other questions. I'm good with that.
Okay. Anyone else? Barbara?
Thank you, Dave. Since this is something, as it was mentioned, thinking outside the box by the mayor, has the property that is being mortgaged, do you have a valuation for that property?
Yeah. I have what the purchase price was in the last 6 months. He had his lawyer, which is Devereaux Lameche, send us a copy of the adjustment certificate that shows the price paid and the tax adjustments and all that sort of thing. So we do have that, and it's definitely. I don't have the approval to release that number, but
no, I wouldn't ask you to.
Yeah, and it is definitely in excess of this number by hundreds of thousands.
Okay, I just want to make sure that our that the price of the value is appropriate. So thank you. Yep, thinking outside the box. Very interesting. Thank you.
I didn't really answer both of Councillor Shearson's questions. Yes, we have done it before with one of the other developments around Mount Forest with with Randhar or by, I'm not sure which one, but that was before my time.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and as long as we're still covered, then that sounds good. I'm not seeing any other. Oh, Barbara, go ahead.
I did have one other question. I think it was mentioned somewhere in there. This is the security deposit. Is there has been fill being trucked in already to prepare the site? Is there any need? Is the quantity of fill that will be required to bring the site, to prepare the site for all of the infrastructure, requiring any of that, the fill bylaw approval process?
Yeah, so the only materials that will be brought in here will be granular materials, but a lot of it is leveling the ground. Any previous work was not done on the Wilder Lake development site. It was more roadways in and around the property, but future work, the pre-servicing work will be only with granular materials coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to call the question then. Is anyone opposed to this? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. And then we have the motion moved by Jason, seconded by Martin, for the bylaw for this. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing none, we'll turn it over to you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote for bylaw 2022-038, the Wilder Lake Subdivision Pre-Servicing Agreement. Councillor Shipston,
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury,
Yes.
Councillor Rice,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne has declared a conflict. Councillor Frew,
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen,
In favor?
Councillor Shearson,
Yes.
by a vote of 6-0, that's carried.
All right, thank you. And Brian, if you can hear us there, you're, well, oh, there you are. You were listening to us. You could come right back. Next, Barbara, go ahead.
Do we have a stretch break?
Okay, I've got 8:07 on the computer here, so how about 8:15, we're back.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll call recess. Okay, I've got quarter past. And we've got quorum. So we'll call the meeting back to order. Kayla, if you're there, we've got your report. And it is moved by Barbara and seconded by Brian. And this is the COVID updates and vaccine policy. There you are. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Okay, I don't have too much to say on this report. We are following the advice provided by Dr. Era, and he has no longer recommended having vaccination policies in place for workplaces. With that being said, we do plan on keeping some of our protocols in place, working cohorts, cleaning, sanitizing, and all of those. We're reviewing them regularly, and they're changing very frequently, but this is one thing that we believe we're ready to remove.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Brian, and then Michael.
Thank you, John. Hey, Kayla, I'm just wondering, do we have any line of sight as to when we may have everybody back in the office?
Yes, so that is something that we are working towards. I believe we're looking in the near future for that. I would say by the end of April is our target.
Okay. No, that's good. Thank you. As long as we're working towards that. Thank you.
It looks fairly crowded right now compared to going in there for 1 or 2 people before. But yeah, we were talking about it at the restart meeting, and the building department's going to move in shortly and you know, kind of repopulate a little bit at a time, just so that it's not just all a big rush. Michael, and then Martin, I think.
Yeah, mine was more or less the same as what Brian asked there. I see that everybody else is declaring it's over and that everything's going back to normal. I just wondering at what point we're going to be back to normal at the township. That was it. So.
Okay, thanks. And I can speak a bit to the declaring the emergency over. We've left ours in place just while we tidy up these loose ends to make sure, but the county has declared theirs over, and so have several municipalities. And so I'm looking at declaring ours over in the next few weeks. But I just don't want to rush at it. Just want to make sure that we have all our bases covered. Martin.
Yeah, thanks, John. Mine was just a comment. While at work today, I was reading some news broadcasts, and as we know, on Monday we have no more masks. But it said also everything from the government will be done April 27th. So we're all going to be following their guidelines. So it's good to see it being revoked, actually. So it's good.
One of the things that we're finding is that although we're getting reports like that in the news, that Kayla's the one that's trying to figure out exactly what the real story is and how it's changing and ever changing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where we end up. Barbara.
Yeah. Thank you. Hi, Kayla. Thank you for the recommendation. If at any point in time down the road, hopefully never, you know, you've got the policy in existence, it's just it's not in action. I know that other organizations are, you know, discontinuing, like you, the vaccination, the requirement to show proof of vaccination and all that, and have adopted a COVID back to work plan, I guess is what they're calling it. for lack of a better term. They're also embracing what they've learned from people working from home and proving that actually can work. So, we've been exercising that for 2 years. Our employees have exercised that they can be productive. Will we be considering any work from home policy whereby, those that can work from home 2 days a week, or, there's an important aspect to being in the office, the socialization, the interaction, the being able to, shout out, can you send me this? Have you got a paperclip? Whatever. But there's also, with the price of gas and other commitments, especially if someone has to isolate at home because they've come into contact with maybe a potential case and the requirement is to stay home for 5 days, but they're perfectly well, or their child has, been exposed and they're perfectly well, but the child can't go to daycare and they could work from home. How do I say that? I guess just to shorten it up, are you looking at a work from home policy?
So we did pass a work from home policy back near the beginning of COVID, and we didn't make that a temporary policy. That's something that we tried to leave open enough that we could use it in the future. So I believe at this point, it would be a matter of reviewing that policy and filling out the appropriate form and leaving it up to the department heads and the CAO if they felt it was appropriate.
I knew that we had one for the emergency, but I just wasn't sure if that was something that was going to carry on. So thank you. And yeah, you're right. It might need a bit of revisiting or tweaking to establish the agreement with the department head, but I'm glad that you're on top of it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dave. And that's your first time with it muted tonight.
It's not garbled anyway.
Yeah, that was very clear. This is a bit late breaking news, but at our CO meeting recently, we had this very discussion. And so I kind of wanted to come back because Brian made the comment of when will everyone be back in the office? And not everyone may be back in the office full time because we do see benefits from, like a homogenous 1, 2, 3 days a week in the office, or whatever, 2, 3, 4, 1, whatever. But the county has come up and the CO at the county sent those to me, and we need to look at maybe revising our policies a bit and actually having a contract of what the working at home arrangement would be, that they have appropriate place and that sort of thing. And for jobs where working at home can be a benefit because of those 2 days that they may work at home are free of interruptions from other people, because interruptions are a big thing in the workplace when it's really not necessary, and they maybe don't deal a lot with the public. But there are days when you need to have meetings with the staff and public and so on. And so I think if we work through that, there is a way to be more efficient, maybe more climate resilient as an organization, and do a better job for the taxpayer in the long run. But that has to go through a process and make sure that the right area, the right place, the right accommodations, the right chair, the right desk, that kind of thing are in both locations. But those are discussions, and it's not going to be a lot of people, but because frontline staff, obviously at the counter, can't work from home. So anyway, that's going to be a discussion.
Okay. Michael?
So if someone's going to work at home 3 days a week, are we going to look at their wages? And because now they don't have travel and everything in there, that we're going to get a savings for this person working at home versus having to drive into the office every day?
Well, I think that's part of the working arrangements that, maybe part of that travel time, we'd expect them to be working, rather than, so we might get more efficiency or more value for that. Obviously, they're going to save some costs as well, but those are all in the discussions on job by job, and job description is going to be part of that as well. But it's sure not going to be for everyone because, like I say, you can't deal with customers or grade roads from an armchair at home. You got to be, it's going to be for people that are pushing a lot more paper or financial analysis, that kind of thing.
Okay. Okay, and any more questions or comments on the vaccine policy and that? Okay, not seeing any. I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you for that, Kayla. We'll move on to Clint's reports. Moved by Barbara, seconded by Jim, and that's 9.6.1. The site plan amending agreement. Hi, Clint. Did you want to add anything to this? Are you upstairs? You're not locked in the basement anymore?
Yes, I'm upstairs for today. Yeah, no additional comments for this one.
Okay. Any questions? Brian.
Not a question, just a clarification that the comment in the prior report was directed squarely at the planner. I'd love to see him back in the office. That's all. Thank you.
Well, I have seen him, so that's at least something to start with. We'll work on the office part. Any other questions or comments? Okay, is anyone opposed to this? That is carried. And we have moved by Brian and seconded by Barbara, the bylaw to go with it. Any questions on the bylaw? Okay, Lindsay, your turn.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote for bylaw 2022-035, site plan agreement for LJ Martin Enterprise. Councillor Dobreen?
In favor.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston? Councillor Shipston? I didn't hear that. Maybe that's on my end. But you are giving a thumbs up, so I will count your vote as a yes. By a vote of 7-0, that is carried.
Okay, thank you. And next we have moved by Jim and seconded by Martin, the site plan amending agreement for the Egremont School. Anything on this, Clint?
Just it's not an amending agreement, it's just it's a regular site plan agreement because there's never been a site plan on this application before. This is a kind of a neat one. It's for the new daycare that's going in there. The Kids and Us daycare is building a new building there at the back, and as a result they need to reconfigure for parking, stormwater, and services, water and septic systems. So they've reconfigured all those, and we've had them reviewed, and it seems to be in order. So we're recommending it be approved.
Great, thank you. Questions, comments? Brian.
Thank you, John. Glad to see that they're taking the opportunity to fix the parking issue in there as well at the same time, because it is a bit of a chaotic place at bell time. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Great. Lindsay?
Sorry, just Clinton, you said it wasn't an amending agreement, but that's what the motion says. Should we do a friendly amendment? It should just say site plan agreement?
Yeah, it's just a site plan agreement.
Okay. With council's indulgence, I'll just remove the word amending.
Okay, if that's okay with Jim and Martin were the ones that moved it, so that's okay with them, we'll carry on. Yep, it is. Okay. Not seeing any further questions on this. Is anyone opposed? And that is carried. Next move by Barbara, seconded by Michael, and it's the bylaw to go with that site plan agreement. Any discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none. Lindsay, your turn.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote for bylaw 2022-034, the site plan agreement with the Blue Water District School Board. Councillor Rice,
Yes.
Councillor Shipston, I'm still not hearing Councillor Shipston, so he has his thumbs up, so I'll count that as a yes. Mayor Woodbury,
Yes.
Councillor Shearson,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne,
Yay.
Councillor Dobreen,
In favor.
Councillor Frew,
Yes.
by a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Okay, thank you. And the next one, moved by Brian and seconded by Michael, is the information about the delegation of authority for county planning. Would you like to talk about this at all, Clint?
I thought it would be appropriate to give staff's perspective on this report that came forward at the county level. I included it as an attachment to this report. It's 35 pages of riveting reading. I'm sure you enjoyed it. That being said, it did make a number of recommendations. One of the biggest things, though, is that it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. So larger municipalities that have more staff and whatnot, it might be appropriate for them to do it. Whereas, I'll just pick on Chatsworth. Chatsworth doesn't have a lot of staff there, and therefore it's not appropriate for them to have their own planning approvals, just because it just doesn't make sense. I don't think the county costed it quite as well. To me, it seemed like it was more of a downloading exercise than anything, that someone still has to do the work, whether it's up at the upper tier or at the lower tier. And so if it's at the lower tier, that's just more work for either the existing planner or planners. And if they have additional capacity, that's great. But if they don't, because they're small, then it's not so great. So that's my comments. I think it's working reasonably well now, the way we have it. And so therefore I'm suggesting that we don't need to change that, but obviously you guys can discuss that.
Okay, thanks, Clint. So what you're saying is there isn't a lot of spare time that you can do all this other stuff in?
Quite the opposite.
Okay, Brian?
I was just going to make the observation that this has got to be a high water mark in the common sense revolution of planning in Southgate, where the planner has turned down the opportunity to build an empire. I commend you on that, Clint. You've done a wonderful job, and I agree wholeheartedly with your conclusion that the county can keep it. Actually, it was not a downloaded or an exercise to download, although that is the result. It was not the county that initiated this. It was a request from a lower tier elsewhere in the county that wants to take on the empire building world and do their own planning, and the county is quite happy to let them do it. But we thought maybe it was, or they thought it was an opportunity to see what the rest of the lower tiers wanted to do, and if they wanted to take on more work, by all means, go to it. But so anyway, as I said, I agree with your conclusion wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Yep, I agree, Brian. Any other comments? Dave?
Yeah, and I'm going to be very serious about this because I think it's important for the county to have that oversight and support of our decisions. as a second level for, anyway, I think the municipality that thinks they can take all this on, or they think they're going to save money, and there's no money to be saved because those planners are still there and going to be costed out. So, but I think it's really important to lower tiers like Southgate. I'm not saying it's a one size fits all, but for us to have that support and oversight by the county planners to peer review our work when necessary. And not saying that our work isn't well done. It just, I think the perspective of like the MZO, we engage them, the county, to help us with that process, and it was very helpful that we got the best outcomes, I think.
Yep, agreed. Not seeing any other hands, so I will, oh, Barbara, go ahead.
Thank you. I did listen to the county meeting and this presentation in particular. I learned a fair amount. It was well presented, and what I did learn, I realized it before, but it was conveyed and confirmed that it's not going to save the developer time. It's not going to save, the work still has to be done. And the nice thing about the county and Southgate, at least, they work together. The planning meetings happen together. There's the one sign, there's the one notice. Things happen kind of parallel, or one does one, and so it was good. And I support your recommendation, Clinton. I think it's valuable to have that oversight, as Brian said, that second set of eyes. Thanks for bringing the report, and you have my support.
Okay. This time I don't see any hands up, so I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to this motion? And that is carried. And thank you, Clint. And yeah, I can't say enough about what the county and you planning and you have shown about the cooperation and the work environment you guys have cooperatively. So that's good. Okay, a couple of bylaws, moved by Martin and seconded by Jim, and that's the alternative voting methods. And it's the bylaw for that. Did you want to comment, Lindsay?
This council's already seen this, Mayor Woodbury, last year. I just had to bring it back with a slight amendment to add advanced voting into it. So we've already approved the method back last year, so just a slight amendment here.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay, and I'll let you do the vote then.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote for bylaw 2022-037, alternative voting methods and advanced voting for the 2022 election. Councillor Dobrain?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
There we go. Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Okay, thank you. And now moved by Barbara and seconded by Michael. It's bylaw 2022-039, the road widening Harper Homes. Are there any questions or comments on that? Okay, there you go, Lindsay, your vote.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote called for bylaw 2022-039, widening. Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Dobrain?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have moved by Brian, seconded by Jason, and it's the regular consent items, regular business. That's 12.1. I don't have anything pulled from 12.1. Any discussion? Okay. The only thing I would like to mention is, and I did earlier, was the hiring of the deputy chief and fire chief. And I think with his extensive experience, going to be a good addition. And this is what will welcome him aboard. So it's good to see. Okay, then I will call the question. Is anyone opposed to the motion? That is carried. Next, we have a motion for moved by Martin, seconded by Jim on the consent items. And Barbara, you wanted 12.2.1, the Grey Bruce Foundation pulled, correct?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we will look at the 12.2 correspondence we can discuss, with the exception of 12.2.1. Any discussion on any of those? Okay, not seeing any. Is anyone opposed to the motion? And that is carried. And then Barb, your notice of motion. Be it resolved that council approve the attendance of members blank at the Grey Bruce Federation of Agriculture Politicians meeting on March 24th, 2022. Do I have a seconder for that before we fill in the names? Oh, Michael. Michael will second that. So Barb, did you want to speak to that first?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Woodbury. And this is an annual educational forum. It's a workshop, it's half day. It is going to be virtual again this year. As per our training and conference policy, in order to, although there's no cost to attend, like a registration fee, there is compensation, half-day training. So we need council approval to attend. Now that is the same day as county council. Provided I'm not required to attend as the alternate at county, I would like to attend this politicians briefing. And I'm not, and I wanted to open it up or provide that opportunity to whoever else was going to be interested in participating in it. It is very informative year over year if we are able to attend.
Okay, yeah, it is. And in the past, we haven't limited the number of right. Councillors that went because of its value and being close proximity. And well, our township is majority agriculture. Yeah. Anyone else want to attend or want to speak to this?
It's in the morning till noon.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands or
and
any
they feed
anything.
you. And they feed you.
Well, as
no,
they virtually feed you this time.
I can see if Jackie will send us a sandwich or something, but it is virtual this year.
Oh well.
Oh well.
Yep. Okay, and so it looks like you Barb. Yep.
And certainly, Mayor Woodbury, and to council, I will not only bring back information, but the assistant who is coordinating it has assured all members that the brief, and I believe they're going to record it. If all goes well, they'll be sharing that out for everyone's benefit.
Okay, thank you. So that's you're the only one I think that has your name down for it. And okay, so I'll call the question: is anyone opposed to this? And that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, move 12.3. It's moved by Michael, seconded by Barbara, and that's the resolutions from other municipalities. And I didn't see anything pulled from that. Any comments or questions on the rest of those issues? Okay. Then I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to this? Okay, seeing none. Declare that passed. And the county stuff, I just have to get back to my meeting notes here. There's some stuff going on at the county where one of the municipalities feels that they're contributing too much percentage-wise to the county budget and not getting their money's worth. But I don't know if anyone's seen any math on it, and I don't know. We're so much stronger as a county, and sometimes one pays more and sometimes less. And what they want to do is any of the supplementary stuff, taxes received from new builds that are over and above what's budgeted by the county would be returned to the municipality for their community action plan. Now this was passed barely, well, it went to a recorded vote and the numbers it passed. But the staff is coming back with another report on this because it has a lot of negative impact and will have a lot of, well, pull money out of the county budget. And I don't know, it's to me not a good way to bump up the community action plan. So that was, I guess, one of the main things. We received a few reports. There was the Grey Roots operating plan, and the museum's got a ton of stuff on the go and a lot of plans, and they're really excited about it. So that's we're going to hear more about that. There was some amendments to the official plan so that Chapman's could increase the size of their facility in Markdale, and they're on the property line. So this increase is actually in West Grey, not in Grey Highlands, but the main building's in Grey Highlands. So there's a few things like that on the go. But that was the majority of it. Brian, did you have anything else?
No, as usual, Mr. Mayor, you've covered it very nicely. Thank you.
I just wish I could remember it without having to go back to all this stuff. Any questions or comments? Okay. Good news and celebrations. I guess one of the things I've talked to Don Lewis about Maple Fest, and they're looking for volunteers. So if anybody's available, it's limited a bit for anyone that's going to Good Roads, because Good Roads, we go down there on the Sunday, and Maple Fest is the Saturday and Sunday of 9th and 10th. So I'll be there, I guess, Saturday morning for a while. But if anyone can volunteer, and encourage anyone else to get out there and participate, or just go and visit, because it's good to have this on the road. And I can't say enough about what the volunteers out in the west end of the township, how much they accomplish and do. So the support should be there. And does anyone else have good news and celebration? Wow, that's pretty good news. So it looks like everybody's getting ready for, let's not do a we'll go past 9 o'clock vote. Okay. Oh, Michael, go ahead.
You're muted, Councillor Shearson.
Yep. You're on mute, so you're going to have to start again.
Oh man, that's the first time I think I've ever done that. But anyway,
now we need a motion to go past 9.
The Dundalk Swap Meet is on this year again. So after 2 years, that it'd be back in Dundalk. So that'll be great news for Dundalk.
Yep, it's good to hear a lot of these things going on, and the rodeo's back this year, and Agriculture Expo. So that's well, it's good to see all these things getting back on the road. Okay, we don't have anything for closed meeting. So it's a confirming bylaw, moved by Barbara and seconded by Jason. Any discussion on that? Okay, Lindsay?
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote called for the confirming bylaw. Deputy Mayor Milne,
Yay.
Councillor Jobreen,
In favor.
Councillor Rice,
Yes.
Councillor Shearson, Councillor Shearson, Councillor Shearson is there, but it's not working. I will come back to Councillor Shearson. Mayor Woodbury?
Favor?
Yes, and Michael has his thumbs up.
Okay, that's a yes for Councillor Shearson.
Yes.
Councillor Frew,
In favor?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston,
Yes.
by a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
See, some of these votes aren't getting too easy, are they? Next, we have our motion to adjourn, and we're all surprised that it's moved by Brian, and we made it in under the limit. We didn't need to go past 9. So again, thank you everybody for all the work put in, and we will see you soon.
Happy
Night.
St. Patrick's Day.
Oh yes, that's other good news. St. Patrick's Day tomorrow.
You betcha.
Yep.
Green
Okay.
beer and all that such.
Yep. The old story they used to say about the firefighters in the parade, especially if you went to one of the big parades like New York or Boston, was that the firefighters practiced their stop, drop, and roll, but that was during the parade, so it wasn't necessarily a good thing. Okay, take care, everyone.
Take
Thanks all.
care.
Good
Thank
night.
you, everyone. Good night.